Well, hey everyone. Hey nightworms and people tuning in. I am so excited to be sitting here today with John Palisano. And John is the president of the Horror Writers Association. He also is probably one of the first people who really welcomed me to the horror community when I first started posting on Twitter. Did you know that, John?
I no, that's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
no, it was like I just started bringing my Bookstagram reviews and my photos of books and stuff over to the Twitter community just to see how that would go and how that would go over with the community. And you were like one of the first people to just kind of like reach out and be cool.
Awesome. Well, that's who I am in a
Yeah,
nutshell.
yeah, that's probably why you're in such like a high authoritative position at the Horror Writers Association, that welcoming attitude.
Yeah, I know firsthand what it's like, and I told this story before, but I remember when I was first coming up in horror writing, I saved up so much money, and I flew all the way to Toronto to go to a World of Horror, and I was so excited. I'm going to meet some peers and make some connections. And I kept going to these parties and panels, and every time I tried to talk to somebody, it was like these old men that would huddle together, and I'm like, hey, I'm a writer too. They're like, oh, okay. Anyway, you know,
Oh,
and it was just like, oh my God. And I became friends with a couple of young fellows, Michael Luis Cavillo, who rest in peace. I miss him every minute. And Ben, and we said at that point, hey man, if we're ever in a position where we're going to welcome people in, we're not going to do this to people, and we were laughing when we get the keys of the castle. And here we are with the keys of the castle. And I still remember that, and how it feels. And when I was running the HWA LA chapter, I ran it always thinking like, what does it take just to get somebody to the door? Like, what did this person go through?
yeah,
They had to tell their significant other, hey, I want to be a writer and I want to go to this meeting Sunday night. And I can only imagine the conversations they had to have and how
right.
much bravery they had to do just to get there. And the last thing I want anybody to feel is like shut down as soon as they get through the door because it's their first time. So I always try to like put myself in that position again.
Yeah, that is so cool because I think if we put ourselves in other people's shoes, especially like in an event, like I have never been to a con. And I mean, I bought my first tickets to go to Scares That Care in 2019, and then obviously we know what
Yeah.
happened. The 2021 was canceled, and then it moved to 2021, and that just kind of got a little dicey, and traveling was weird. And so these tickets have been floating, and then it's hard to plan things right now. So I still like, I feel like there's all this momentum and pressure, especially the more I get to meet people online, to show up at a con, and I wouldn't even know where to start, honestly. So it would be so like it would be so, and just kind of take the awkwardness away if somebody were to come up and just be like, "Oh, hey, let me introduce you to some people, blah blah blah." So that would be really cool.
Yeah. And I think that the biggest complaint I always have of every con is there's just not enough time to spend the time with people that you want to spend.
Yeah.
Because you really want to go out to lunch with everybody, but you only have 2 or 3 days and so many things,
Yeah.
and you want to catch panels and workshops and stuff. So it can be really hard. And by the time the parties come late at night, you're ready to drop. Because you've walked like 7 metric miles going back and forth all day, and
Yeah.
you're ready to drop. I always just kind of just fall into whatever conversation I can. Um, and just I know that, and there's going to be people that I maybe miss really spending time with that I want to. It's hard, but it can definitely be intimidating because you're like, oh my God, I walk into a room and there's like literally like probably 75 people I recognize from online at once.
Yeah, that's
Like, oh
that's
my
exactly
God.
what I'm thinking. And you don't want to make that like beeline for the people that you, I don't know, feel kind of like safe with. You want to just be kind of cool and available to everyone. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I have like social anxiety anyway.
Oh. Well, I think the good old buddy system works good.
Yeah.
Grab somebody right away is smarter to
Yeah.
go in with somebody and say, hey, where are you going next, or let's go there, here. And I think that helps a lot to leave
Yeah,
the pressure on yourself. And
that's
that's
really good advice.
I always try to do that too. Like when I'm at a con, I when you're in a conversation, people can sometimes be hovering around you and trying to get your attention. And it's hard because you don't want to like disengage from the person you're talking to, but you don't want to not acknowledge somebody.
Yeah.
So it can be definitely a social stress field for sure. Yeah.
Joan, would you say that that would be like one of the benefits of becoming like a member of something like Horror Writers Association, so that you can start going to like these Zoom meetings and stuff that they have for different chapters and just kind of get to know, like it kind of like reduces the size of the circle a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that um, in the big picture, any of these organizations are really about the people, versus connections and things like that. And I really urge everybody to get involved in whatever local chapter is near them, even if you can only get online at this point, because again, you do kind of make those connections. And when if you're going to the same Stoker Con and two people from your chapter are going, you already have buddies
Yeah.
going in there. You feel like, oh, I'm going and Ben and Mike are going to be there. So at least I have them and we can all go to the events together and kind of, watch each other's back. And can you watch my bag when I go to the bathroom kind of stuff?
Right.
And,
Right.
you go to that panel, I go to this one, we'll compare notes. And, it just makes things a lot easier in that regard. And yeah, definitely closing that circle is a great analogy there, for sure.
Yeah, just to have like a little buddy system in place and some
Yeah,
friendly faces that you can kind of just like feel comfortable around and already know them and have talked to them and stuff. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
totally. And
What would you like if you were to tell a new person, a new writer, or somebody who wanted to support the Horror Writers Association? Like, what would you tell somebody who is interested in becoming a member? Like, what are like maybe two or three big benefits to being a member?
um, meeting people. I think the biggest benefit for this whole thing is just meeting your fellow travelers on this crazy passion and journey. That in of itself is worth everything, because it's hard to say what tangible benefits are. The other ones would be just being able to become a peer to other people. I mean, you don't need the Horror Writers Association or any organization to become a writer or to have peers or have friends. But this kind of gives you a built-in system to kind of help that happen and facilitate that, which is really cool. The other good thing is there are opportunities for writers at all levels, not just beginners, not just amateurs, and not just people at the top of their game. There's all kinds of different levels, and there's a lot of help to be had. If you're looking for help with your writing in general, we have the mentorship program. We've got we've got a writing workshop that's been spearheaded by Mona Lawrence. Just there's a lot of different programs applicable to writers at different levels, and we're trying to change the culture of the HWA. I'm like I feel like I'm a culture director more than anything, because I want the HWA to be for everybody and not for only an elite few. And I
Yeah.
think you can see that we really want to welcome people of all kinds of walks of life into the HWA, because it's a scary world out there. And one of the great things we're seeing is if you jump in and volunteer, that is a really great way to make friends or mentor. Believe it or not, a lot of people say, what do I get out of volunteering? What do I get from mentoring? So that'll be like another big benefit is you
Yeah.
get to do that. And people are like, well, what do you mean, John? I'm going to work for free? And I say, you're not working. You're building friendships. We have just expanded. Here's a great example. We just expanded our social media team to like 4 people. And when we first started, we were kind of like, we had one person doing it all, and it was too much. It was Megan, our Curie, who's amazing. But I mean, you can't run Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. I mean, we've grown so much. It's just even 40 hours a week doing it. It's just not enough. And that team came together so quickly and they bonded so well. And they're so inspiring and they're so passionate. And we had an incident where somebody in that team got very sick and everybody came together. And it was just like, it's beyond just the work of running the social media. I mean, these are connections and friendships that are being made, and everybody's like connecting, saying, oh, I went through that too. Don't worry. And it's just like your heart, just like, you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is really what it's about. And that's a huge benefit. And I see that in the mentorship program all the time. A lot of the people that mentored me and that I've mentored have gone on to become friends.
Yeah.
And good friends, because you really get to know somebody when you're going through a story with somebody and trying to get into their brain. You get to know them. Oh, I was going through this at the time. And, that's why that story. Oh, well, you know what? Try it this way then, and try and get out of your head. And then you become kind of almost like co-counselors too, in a way. So,
Yeah,
and
I love
that's
that.
yeah. And that's a great thing. And the mentorship program on both sides is a huge benefit. And I kind of think of it more as less transactional. And I really love kind of an Eastern kind of way of thought with that, where the student has everything in them and you just need to draw that out. And you're not better or worse than the student. You're just at a different place on the timeline. And the student coming to you is you treat them as an equal. And I think that really makes a big difference down the road, instead of doing like expert to, non-expert kind of teaching.
Right.
I think that really is a huge benefit. And I see that a lot in the HWA now. A lot of people are kind of doing like more kind of like peer-to-peer things versus we're experts and come to us for, guidance. We're like, no,
Yeah.
we're kind of like more of a networking thing. So those are some big benefits that come to my mind. Those are the big ones for me.
Yeah, you really spoke to a few of the benefits that have worked really well for me as well. Like, I think I've only been a member for about 2 years now. But when I first started, I did jump into volunteering like right away. And it really helped me like build a network of people like with different expertise in the industry. Like, just they have knowledge about a certain subject or a certain field, like printing or publishing or whatever. And so I have tapped those people, throughout like different things for Nightworms or for my reviews, where I could reach out to that person and say, oh, hey, I have this question, like, would you feel comfortable helping me resolve this like issue or answering this question? And I would have never have known those people had I not like jumped into a situation where we were interacting and meeting each other and like, kind of talking about like different things that we were interested in within the horror community. So that was really cool. And then plus I represent like the nonfiction writing part of horror, which is kind of a smaller majority or a smaller segment of people for the horror writers. And so it was really cool when I was working with the person processing payment and trying to get me qualified for different tier levels. They were just so cool, like trying to help me figure out my finances and how I'm getting paid from different platforms. And it looks a lot different than people who are getting paid for fiction work. So the Horror Writers Association really like helped out with that. So that's cool. And then so like there are different tier levels, and I know that there's like a supporting tier level. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Right. So for a lot of the levels, there's requirements of like what you sold, like, and at what money level you sold different works for. I don't have them all memorized. I'm going to admit that because I did for like 2 or 3 years. And with the expansion, and we're constantly evolving those rates and the terms, because things are changing so rapidly. So I can't keep it in my head. I just go to the website and tell people, because I'm like, no way. But
visit the website if you want to know those.
Like horror.org, or you can always, anybody interested you can always email me, president@horror.org, if you don't know where to start, and I can direct you and talk to you. If you feel more comfortable, you can write to membership@horror.org, or just go to horror.org, and we have lists of all the different departments you can write to, and everybody's real friendly, and nobody's going to bite your head off if you email the wrong person by accident. Oh, you
Yeah.
should go. Everybody's really cool with that. We get it. But to go back to supporting membership, let's say you haven't sold a story yet. You're just kind of in there. You're working on your writing, or you're a publisher or something, and you're not like, you don't qualify for selling fiction or nonfiction or anything like that. We do have the supporting membership, which gives you almost all the other benefits. I think the only benefits, and don't quote me on this, is that you just don't vote for the Stokers, I
Yeah,
think.
that's right.
Yeah. But I believe supporting can still recommend works.
Mm-hmm.
But all the other promotional avenues are still open to you. Like if you're a publisher, you can submit the quick bites, all your titles, and get all the discounts that we offer. You can get into the health insurance, which is unbelievable. Has been really helpful to people. That's a huge benefit.
That is a huge benefit.
Yeah. And we have been working on that since, I think, Deborah LeBlanc's term. That's been something we've been trying to get, and it finally came true because other writing organizations all came together, and we had enough members between like 4 or 5 organizations to make it work and viable. Because we're
Wow.
small. We just crested 1,900 members this
Okay.
year. And I think RWA, like Romance, has something like 150,000 or something crazy
Okay.
like
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
we're minuscule in the scope of writing organizations. So the insurance companies looking at us like, we can't give you a discount for anything with that, tiny little number.
Yeah.
Just get out of here. So
Yeah.
yeah. But supporting is a great way, and also you can get into the organization, get the newsletters, get everything going. You can interact on the social medias and everything, and you can get started that way. If you're a writer just getting started, you can certainly get started that way. All the other programs are still available to you there too, so it's definitely a great way to jump in the fire.
Yeah, I mean, recommending work is so fun. Like that's, to be honest, my major reason for joining the Horror Writers Association was so that I could vote on the
Awesome.
Stokers. Like that's been like a dream of mine, is to be able to, I mean, I just read so much horror like all year
Yeah.
long, and I just felt like this really big desire to be able to have a voice in that situation. So, it took me a while to get to the point where I could qualify for active membership and be able to vote on the ballots. But at a supporting level, you can recommend work to the reading
Mhm.
list, which is an invaluable resource.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to do that too. Like I just read the When Things Get Dark anthology by Ellen Datlow. And I just took all the short fiction from that anthology that I really enjoyed, and I just went through and recommended them all as short
Awesome.
works of fiction to the Horror Writers Association's recommended reading page. And I think that that's a huge benefit,
Yeah.
not only for the authors, but for readers too, because I think the list is open to the public, correct?
I think the general reading list is, yeah.
Yeah, they could see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a great way to promote horror literature in general. And that's one of, that's probably the biggest tenet of the HWA is one of our biggest bylaw is spreading the word of dark literature,
Yeah,
literally.
yeah,
That's it. And I think that list goes around, and it does get looked at, and the authors get visibility from that. And that's terrific.
yeah.
All around. And we are definitely in a golden age of horror. You can
Yeah,
attest to this. The amount of great stuff being produced is overwhelming.
I think so too.
It's crazy. I'm like, I have more, but I don't have enough time in my life to read the books that
I
just
know.
came out in the last couple of years. It's crazy.
I know. I really want to say, like, from 2019 and 2020 to this year to what's coming out next year, like, it just seems like we really, really are in this renaissance. Like, I think I'm doing a panel in January where we're like going to talk about how exciting that all is. But I've really noticed it, especially on Bookstagram. Like when I first started 5 years ago talking about horror, it was literally like Stephen King, like
Yeah.
just talk to us about Stephen King. We don't give a shit about these other people. And then as soon as like people started doing these word of mouth, like I'm reading this author, this independent author, he's like killing it for me. I would talk about like Jonathan Jans or,
Oh
you know,
yeah.
these, independent writers and people were just sucking it up. Keelan
Yeah.
Patrick Burke had like this he like dominated Bookstagram for like a whole year. It was nothing but Keelan Patrick Burke, and he was all self-published, so
Yeah.
it was really cool to see that movement happening on Bookstagram.
Yeah. I love that. And it's been undeniable, and to the point where even Barnes and Noble has reintroduced a horror section after decades. And I'm
Yep.
not going to say that the HWA had anything to do with it, but I will say that when Lisa was president, she and I both were writing letters every year to the head of Barnes and Noble saying, you need a horror section again.
Oh, that's
They
awesome.
never wrote us back. We've never
Yeah.
heard anything. But one day I walked in and I'm like, there's a horror section. And it wasn't just Stephen King. There were indie titles on there. I saw like, you know, small press Stephen Graham Jones titles and all kinds of like really cool smaller press things, like Hex Publishers and things. And I was like, this is amazing. Their buyers they really are paying attention here.
Yeah, and now look at Stephen Graham Jones. It's like they have a whole shelf dedicated to him with his
Yeah,
big bestsellers,
yeah,
that is like kicking ass.
as
Prime
it should
time.
be. And Grady Hendrix is his own, institution now. And
Yeah.
I just love it because my feeling has always been um, other writers are not your competition, they're your friends. And Barnes and Noble always, and Books a Million and everybody, they need content. They need new books all the time. And they have plenty of shelf space they need to fill.
Yeah.
And they don't want it all to be dominated by one author. It's not good for them either. They don't want all their eggs in one basket.
Right.
You know, so I think it's really healthy. Some people say, "Oh, I'm in competition, and this one's book is doing better than mine." And I always just say, "Hey, just wait it out because the spotlight will be yours at some point. So just you know, we lift other people up, right? And we'll all get there. We'll all get that shelf space, and it's
Yeah.
happening. It's really happening, and it's exciting. It's really wonderful to see."
I think so too. I think it's really cool. And I think that that's like another good reason to join the HWA is at any tier level is all of that money being pooled, like you were talking about insurance. Like that's really important for authors who have maybe cut back on a full-time job in order to afford some quality writing time, or their partner is working and they're staying home writing. Like
Yeah.
those kinds of insurance benefits that are being offered are so important because it's really expensive if something catastrophic were to happen, or even just, day-to-day things like having to go to the doctor for whatever. Like we don't want people to have to stress out and worry about their health, and if we can pool together efforts and finances and money and be like a genuine community in that sense, then that's a great reason to join.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more great thing about the insurance that a lot of people don't know is I've been hearing again and again from authors who have just called them and have gotten better deals on their existing insurance.
Oh, wow.
And even people who are working full time and they seem everything's going well, they're saving a few $100s a year or something on, getting into this plan because it's better than their companies. It's a free call. It's worth checking out. We don't make any money off of this. There's no financial incentive for us. We just want to help our folks here. So I made the call and they saved me a little bit too. Hey, every bit counts. We know that being writers, a few
Yeah.
$100s a year is a lot. It can be. So,
Yeah. And you guys are doing scholarships too, right? Like
oh my
how long
God,
has that been going on?
we've had scholarships for decades, but there was only like one or two, and they weren't really well promoted. I don't even know that they're growing some. I think there's like 7 or 8 now.
That's great.
Scholarships. Yeah. And they're being really We're getting a lot of submissions for them and a lot of great people, a lot of great talent. We're sending money out, and not just to authors. I mean, we're sending. We have scholarships. We had a library scholarship for a while that we're bringing back again, where we're sending money for programs at libraries for kids to read horror books. So all kinds of really fun stuff in that regard too. And I definitely think folks should be applying to those. I get a lot of people asking me, "Hey, how can I, get a free StokerCon membership and stuff?" Well, we have Scholarship from Hell. We have a lot of ways you can do that. Which is really cool. So yeah, and we have. I think the scholarships has its own website too, right now, which
Oh,
is
okay. I will link
its own
all of
area.
that.
Yeah.
I'll make
Um,
sure to get all those links like put in the show notes so that people can visit those because those are really important. And I think
yeah,
too, if you're like a publisher or, just an independent party, can people make donations to those scholarships? Because I know
absolutely.
like Nightworms did that one year. So
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a really strong donations a conduit that works for us. We've got a lot of really, national, international organizations that are sending us money, and our job is to distribute it to people who need it. So yeah, absolutely. And we have individuals that have sent money. We all the time we're receiving money. People and people are now wanting to say, I want this money to be for this specific scholarship, which is a really cool development because we haven't had that really before this year so much.
yeah, that's
Some
so
people are
cool.
like, I really want to donate to the Mary Shelley.
Right.
And this year, in fact, our diversity scholarship, we had so many donations. Instead of giving out two, we gave out five or six.
Yeah, I saw that. That's so awesome.
Yeah. So it's freaking cool to see that
Yeah, that's
happen,
so cool.
and
Yeah,
the
and
quality.
definitely follow the HWA on Twitter because that's where I find out all the really current information.
And one last really important note about scholarships is you don't have to be an HWA member to apply.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, because that was a big criticism. Like, well, you have to join to apply, and we voted no. That doesn't. You're right. That does not feel good. You
Yeah.
know. So a lot of our applicants have never, been in the organization, and they just heard about it through a scholarship site, and that's great, and that's exciting.
Yeah, I think so too. I also, just before we go,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about StokerCon. So,
Right.
like last year, during COVID and all the lockdowns and everything, the StokerCon event was virtual.
Hmm.
And I have to say, like, it was an amazing experience. Like, if I can just tell everybody, there was like these hangout rooms. They were like the Mary Shelley bar or the whatever bar, the Edgar Allan Poe room or whatever. And so in between like all these different events that StokerCon had going on for the weekend, you could go hang out in these rooms. And I was able to hang out with Aaron Dries in Australia. It was
Oh,
like in the middle of the night for him, and it was like 10 o'clock in the morning or something for me. But we were just hanging out in there and got to chat, which I don't think would happen in any other circumstance, because it's so expensive for him to travel
yeah.
to the States. So, my question to you is, I know that StokerCon is tentatively being hosted in Denver in
Hmm.
2022, but do you think that there will be like a virtual element as well, or are we just going to go with the event?
Well, we have officially announced that it's going to be a hybrid event.
Oh, really? When was
Yeah.
this? I
I
didn't
think
see it.
last week
Okay.
in the StokerCon emails. Yeah, so we're gonna have an online contingent using the same service again this year, including Final Frame. I think we're trying to make that possible for our virtual attendees. So there'll be
Cool.
some programming will be streamed from the event, and then we'll have some specific programming too, just for logistics reasons. And we're working out all the details on that. And yeah,
Yeah,
you're
those
right.
panels were really cool.
Yeah, and I loved those virtual bars. I mean, it was so funny because just like in real life, we'd be like, "Where's Jim's Chambers? Where's Brian Matthews? I don't know." And we would go into the Mary Shelley bar, and they're in there. Oh, my panel! Just like in
Yeah.
real life, I was like cracking up.
Yeah, that's so cool. I know I went in there sometimes and there would just be like a plethora of little faces tiled in the window of everybody laughing. Like somebody had said something, so you would just walk in and everyone's cracking up about something, you know. And it was just fun to see everybody like having a good time from all over the place. And you know, I thought it was a really interesting thing too because it was people who like were saying that they never would have been able to go to a Stoker con, and
Yeah.
they felt like they were a part of it. So you know, when we say we want cons to go back to normal, like hopefully that includes this element of being able to be super inclusive.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see how it goes this May. It should work well, and I think that that's again, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. Just being able to have more people experience it, you know, from afar, or who, you know, who knows what we're going to be with the virus by then.
Right.
Hopefully it's gone and it's yesterday's news. But if it's not, anybody who's can't get vaccinated or can't travel for any reason, we'll have that contingent there too for them. So I'm really
That's so
excited.
cool. Yeah, I'm excited too.
Yeah, so definitely, we are all systems are go at this point. We're working on exactly the safety protocols and all that. We're talking to the Curtis Hotel in Denver to see kind of like how we're going to do this, you know, in person, you know, without
Yeah.
people sitting 6 feet apart with masks, you know, at a
Yeah.
convention, which isn't really realistic. So we're trying to figure out the particulars, but we'll get there.
Yeah,
We'll get there.
definitely.
So,
Yeah, I'm hoping to go, but I haven't bought tickets or anything yet, so we'll see.
yeah, see how it goes. There's plenty of time left. We just opened sales last week, so there's
Okay.
plenty of what is it? It's only October, so we got plenty of time.
Yeah, plenty of time. All right, John. Well,
All right.
I think that we definitely opened some eyeballs on the HWA and really hit a
Cool.
lot of different topics that people were maybe questioning or wondering about. And, you know, that's just my plug for joining the HWA. I've really found a family with all the members, and I love getting the StokerCon opt-in emails. I know some people think they're annoying, but I think it's awesome. It's like Christmas.
Yeah.
It's like any book I want to read to see if it's something that I should be like, you know, talking about. Like, I love that. So,
Yeah. Same
yeah,
here.
but thanks for joining me for this.
Well, thanks for having me. This is awesome. Really
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah, great. Okay, well, bye, everybody.
Bye.